Now this is satisfaction. Satisfaction after a whole decade. Keep that redemption arc going, Capcom. You know, more or less. So, if you didn't know, the best game of the year, Devil May Cry 5, came out, and much like hundreds of other people, I can't seem to shut up about it. I don't know, there's just something about its charm, style, and satisfying gameplay that just makes it the best thing ever. While I could fillet this game until the heat death of the universe, this video isn't about 5. Yeah, it's about DMC 2 and DMC Devil May Cry. Why? The one thing that always interested me in the DMC community is which game is the worst. Obviously this was DMC 2, but when DMC Devil May Cry rolled in, it took that role. Now, I was part of that angry crowd back in 2013 that really hated the game, and I've let my anger about the game out since then. But looking back at it, in terms of which DMC game is the worst, yeah, I think DMC 2 takes that reign. Don't worry, I'm not being that weird contrarian who says, oh hey guys, DMC Devil May Cry is actually one of the best games in the series. You shouldn't overlook it. No, the game still doesn't compare to the original series, but looking back on it 6 years later, I think the game doesn't deserve to be the worst of the series. You know, just second to last. So, why not compare the two and see why DMC Devil May Cry is better? Faults and all. Story, gameplay, aesthetics, it's all going to be covered here. I'm going to talk about each game first and then make the comparison, starting with DMC Devil May Cry.
Not in a million years.
Fuck, why am I doing this? For all its problems, the story of DMC Devil May Cry is actually pretty easy to follow. The game takes place in Limbo City, which is secretly controlled by demons, alongside the rest of the world. They control humanity through food, media, and other comforts of life. Dante, or Dante, is our disheveled devil hunter who hunts down these demons while simultaneously getting hunted by them. One of the reasons the demons are trying to find him is because he's a Nephilim, an angel-demon hybrid which Dante isn't even aware of being. That Nephilim heritage is something he shares with his brother, whom he first meets when Kat, a woman who warns him about a powerful demon tracking him down, meets up with him. After he beats the demon, she takes him to the Order's hideout, an anonymous-style group that seeks to end the control demons have over the world. Reluctant at first, Dante joins the Order after some convincing from Vergil. He does this by showing memories taken away from them when they were kids. Because their parents, Ava and Sparta, were angel and demon, they were a constant target since such relationships were forbidden. Ava ended up getting murdered by the main antagonist of the game, Mundus, which Dante witnessed. To protect them, Sparta erased both Dante and Vergil's memories so the demons wouldn't be able to find them. At some point, he gets taken back down to the demon world and tortured for eternity. With his newfound motivation, Dante joins the Order to stop the demons' control over the world, and to get revenge. So yeah, DMC Devil May Cry story is working with a lot of themes: conspiracy, societal manipulation, negatives of capitalism. It's all there, but it's super ham-fisted, contains zero subtlety, and has really, really shitty characters. A lot of what the game tries to express felt paper thin. You never really see the themes being shown to you in the game. Because of this, the game really likes to tell you what's happening rather than showing you. An example of this is virility, a popular drink that boasts it'll make you fitter, smarter, and sexier, when in reality it's just another way for demons to control humans. But again, you're not really shown its effect on people. In the beginning of Mission 4, Dante, in a supreme asshole fashion, knocks a can of virility out of a person's hand, saying it'll kill you. And that's it. Now, throughout the mission, you're shown how virility is made and how nasty the stuff really is, especially seeing that it's stuff that literally comes out of a boss, the succubus, but again, you're given the cause but no effect. Wouldn't it be interesting if that person saw a fit, desirable person in his reflection, but in reality he's anything but? Or maybe have people who are aware of the truth somewhat, but drink virility to keep themselves in the delusion, just to cope. Because while they do know the truth, they really have no power to change anything. Look, I'm no writer. Well, at least a good one, but I feel this would make this part of the game more interesting. But no, the game just tells you, drink bad, made by demon, Dante must kill the drink demon. And that's about it. The Bob Barbas parts of the game were okay in my opinion. It's something that we've all seen before, the media controlling information and manipulate the thoughts and feelings of those who consume it. Bob does a pretty good job at painting Dante, Cat, and Vergil and the whole order in a bad light. This even climaxes with authorities finding their hideout and Cat getting taken away and tortured. Bob is fairly reoccurring too, even for how short the game is. I didn't immediately forget about it like Virility. Again, it's nothing new, but it fits for what the game is going for. There's nothing else to really add here, well except a really meh boss fight. Roam around in the digital space, hit the circles on the ground to create an opening, dodge all them digital waves, and then hit him. Rinse and repeat. It's just the pinnacle of boss fights over here. But let's move on to the crummiest aspect of this game. Its characters. Starting with ya boy Dante. You've all heard it for years. He's an unlikable, crass asshole who lacks the charm and coolness of the original Dante. And he does have a bit of a character arc where he decides to be less of an asshole and, more mature, but 90% of it is him just being a dick. One thing that's really annoying is the whole Nephilim aspect to him. In the original series, being half human and half demon was integral to Dante as a character. He resented his demon side, especially after seeing demons kill his mother and wreck his whole childhood. But he treasures his human side, famously saying,
"You assume humans are weak. Okay, yeah, their bodies lack the physical ability of a demon. But humans possess something that demons don't."
What? What is it that demons lack? Please, for the sake of my research, please tell me. No, 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 no.
Which, and this is an interpretation, the ability to have feelings, care about others, and have other feelings besides anger or hate. Or in Vergil's case, the undying pursuit of power. This is how Dante serves as an antithesis to Vergil. One finds his strength in his human side, connecting with people and going out of his way to help others, while the other finds it in his demon side, embracing it to seek ultimate power. In his eyes, humans are weak because they can't reach that raw, unimaginable strength of demons. Even if he wanted to protect others, to Vergil, having power is the only real way. Friends, emotions, family, well, besides being the son of Sparta, doesn't matter to him in his pursuit of power. However, this doesn't mean that Dante doesn't acknowledge his demon side. After he loses his first fight with Vergil, his demon side awakens within him. He ultimately uses it to beat Vergil at the end of the game. Unlike Vergil though, Dante finds a balance between his demon side and human side. Vergil's lust for power from his demon side becomes his ultimate downfall. After losing his fight against Dante, Vergil falls into the demon world and takes on Mundus, the final boss of DMC 1. After giving it his all, he ultimately loses and becomes Nello Angelo in DMC 1, Mundus' pawn. This comes full circle in DMC 5. In 5, Urizen is Vergil, or rather Vergil's demon side come to life. After several years, Vergil was able to escape the demon world, but after multiple never-ending battles, his body was weak, broken, and literally crumbling away. So, Vergil, still in his never-ending pursuit of power, plunges a Yamato into himself to split his demon side from his human side, becoming Urizen and V. V is an interesting character. While he is his own person, he truly represents Vergil's repressed human side. V has a lot of regret for his past actions. He even goes as far as to describe himself to be full of delusions, no doubt talking about his thirst for power and the lengths he would go to obtain it. He even respects humans in a similar way to Dante, admiring the fact that humans never give up in the face of adversity. In the end of the game, when Vergil is reunited with V, and after battling Dante and Nero, he still helped save the world. Oh yeah, he's still that Vergil you know and love, but the fact that he helped stop a catastrophic event he created, it shows deep down, and I mean really deep down, he's sorta in touch with his human side. Ooh, sorry about my rambling, but since DMC Devil May Cry lacks this aspect, it feels really weird. I think I know what they're trying to do with Dante, the whole what it means to be human theme and all, especially since he literally checks if he's still human when, you know, he isn't. But I still feel like being half human works better here. There's other games to get this very right, like Nier, but what this game could have done was do something similar to trying to live with great power while putting yourself equal to others who aren't powerful. I don't know why I'm having a hard time trying to describe it, but think One Punch Man, and if you want to get Western, Superman to kind of toy around with this. Like with Superman, he's an all-powerful alien pretty much from space who tries to live with humans, and you know, he saves them and he's a hero and everything, but he still sees himself as equal to people around him, or really desperately wants to. You're told in the game that Nephilim are extremely powerful, so why not have Dante trying to live as equals to humans and show his struggles with that, while dealing with demons on a day-to-day basis. It would make Vergil's rushed motivations at the end of the game make more sense. Yeah, Vergil is not even the same character from the original series. Throughout the game, he acts as the enlightened leader who really wants to make things better. He forms bonds with Cat and Dante, of course, but he's ready to throw people like Cat under the bus for the greater good. While dull and honestly uninteresting his characterization was, it was consistent until the end. Right before the final fight of the game, Vergil just comes out and basically says, "Hey, I'm evil now." With the demons defeated and the city saved, Vergil planned for him and Dante to rule over the humans as their protectors from themselves. This comes off as really jarring since Vergil in no way hinted or expressed wanting to do this throughout the game. I think a way to do Vergil better is to frame him as a person who feels he's above humans because of his power, so he knows what's best for them, using his powers in morally questionable ways to enforce his idea of what's right, eventually becoming no different to the demons he fights, and him and Dante having a battle of differing ideas. Again, I'm a very amateur, I'm very much an aspiring writer, so I'm not trying to come off as some authority, but I just feel like these are ways to improve the game's writing. But moving on from that, let's focus on gameplay and level design. So, as you may know, DMC Devil May Cry doesn't have as deep and complex gameplay as the original series. On the surface, it looks like everything is there. Combos, aerials, a variety of weapons to use, high mobility, it's all there. But the more you look into it, the cracks start to show. First off, there's no lock on, making choosing which enemy you want to attack a huge pain. And because of that, Stinger is performed in a really weird way by tapping the left stick forward twice and then triangle, which feels weird. And instead of being its own move, High Time is mapped to a dedicated button, which is circle or B, which means yes, the game doesn't have any styles. No Royal Guard, Trickster, Gunslinger, or Swordmaster. The very things that made DMC's combat complex and deep are gone. The only plus the game has is that it has a dedicated dodge button, which is something I always wanted in Devil May Cry, but hey, Bayonetta fills that hole, and I'm just living with it since 5 doesn't have a dodge button at all. But dodge is on both shoulder buttons, so that means Devil Trigger is R3 and L3 at the same time. Devil Trigger here is similar to OG DMC, but with the added slow down time effect for Dante. So you know, it's kind of like Quicksilver. But the biggest offense this game makes, by far, which just breaks the flow of gameplay, is the color-coded enemies. So, like in any DMC game, you got a variety of weapons to use at your disposal. You can switch between these weapons to vary up combat and really get those high style ranks. Thing is, this game really likes to throw enemies at you that can only be killed by a specific color-coded weapon, either red or blue. Make a mistake and hit an enemy with the wrong color-coded weapon, and you'll get staggered. You have to do a lot of stop and thinking for these enemies, which makes the combat tedious as hell. And this isn't me saying, let me mindlessly flail my sword around to kill enemies, because the previous games managed to be challenging without this weird requirement. It's just extremely annoying and the game could really do without it. Which it did, kinda. So, back in 2015, Capcom released a definitive edition of DMC Devil May Cry, which reworked a lot of the elements in the game. They added a turbo mode, making the game's pace feel way smoother, a lock-on, making Stinger actually work with an added health bar on enemies, and hey, the game is actually 60 FPS now. That's nice. And they removed the stupid color-coded only enemies as well. Now, of course, not everything is perfect. The story is still a no. And the lock-on is a bit janky. And sure, you can damage enemies with any weapon now, but they don't stagger if it's the incorrect color-coded weapon. But in all, it makes for a better action game. But, does this mean the game is fun? Well, although it still doesn't hold a candle to the original series, DMC Devil May Cry is still a really fun game to play. Anywho, even though DMC Devil May Cry is much easier than the older series, like doing things like staying in the air for long periods of time is not hard in this game, you can still pull off some cool looking stuff. Now, here's a hot take. DMC Devil May Cry has marginally better level design than the original series. Level design has either been okay or wonk in Devil May Cry in my opinion. There's a lot of backtracking, weird puzzles, general fucking confusion on where you need to go. I'm looking at you 4. Well, to be more specific, this is mainly directed at 3 and 4. Less so in 3, more fucking so in 4. DMC Devil May Cry makes its levels into interesting platforming segments. You have to use a lot of different weapons to break, pull to, or grapple certain objects, all to get to different platforms and areas. Now, this isn't perfect either. It's super linear and the game missed out on a chance to put in some cool exploration options here as well. Like, I could have definitely seen myself grappling onto places trying to get something similar to a blue orb, for example. But it was something I found cool, especially coupled up with the game's interesting environmental design. Besides the god-awful club level in some parts of the city, the artistic design in DMC Devil May Cry is interesting. The way everything moves when something goes into limbo looks really cool. It's really like a moving, living, transforming city. I also love the setting of a modern European city. Mixing the old and the new with that living city aspect looks really interesting. I also really like the area you go to when you get new moves. The colors there are really striking and popping. Oh boy, I said a mouthful. But that ends it for DMC Devil May Cry. Let's move on to Devil May Cry 2. Devil May Cry 2 starts off with Dante and a new character called Lucia going to a museum to get Arcana, a type of relic. After some demon bashing, Lucia takes Dante to Dumuri Island to meet her mother, Mattia. She then tells Dante how she and Sparta used to fight alongside each other back in the day. It's also there where Mattia tells Dante about Arius, an evil businessman who wants to take over the world using power from a demon called Argosax. After flipping a coin to decide if he'll do it or not, full Harvey Dent here, him and Lucia take off to take down Arius. That's it. That's what DMC2 is about. Oh no, there's like a little bit of other stuff, but that's it. How about we get to the characters, which you can play as? Both. Yeah, you can play as both Dante and Lucia. Well, what fun. Let's start with Dante. He's really broody and serious, I guess. His new outfit's pretty cool too. Okay, if you haven't noticed, there really isn't much going on here for Dante as a character and in the game in general. He has no characterization here, and his only motivation to do anything in the game is Mattia telling him that story about his dad. It just feels like a minor case for Dante, really, so he isn't really putting his all into this, or bringing his all into this, basically. I'm having a hard time talking about him. There just isn't anything here, but you know who does have some characterization? Lucia. It's revealed to you in the game that Arius created Lucia. In the game, you fight an enemy called Secretaries, who are directly controlled by Arius himself, using them as bodyguards. Arius, or Arius, I'm probably gonna mix that together, ordered Lucia, whose original name was the Greek letter Chi, to be thrown away because he had some kind of defect. Mattia ended up finding her and raising her as her own daughter. This creates an interesting conflict within Lucia. After all, she was created by demons, would she eventually turn on humanity? Hey, maybe that defect she had was her having a heart, unlike Arius' other creations. While this is cool, the game doesn't really go anywhere with it. It just ends with Dante comforting her and things being okay in the end. But yeah, in terms of story, there's really nothing going on for DMC 2. It's easy to follow, but a lot of stuff does happen with no reason given to why. Like, who the hell's the final boss anyway, Argosax, and why are you fighting him? Like, yeah, I understand Arius is getting power from him, but the game doesn't really tell you this. Or even why Lucia met Dante in the museum in the first place. They just ended up there. It makes the game feel unfinished or rushed, which is pretty much the case. Now, everyone knows that Hideki Itsuno, the man who took the reins of DMC from 3 and onwards, came to pick up the scraps of DMC 2 Capcom was displeased with and tried to patch it up into a working game. I imagine, 1, he didn't have enough time to really revamp everything, which is most likely the case, and 2, to imagine this game without him fixing it in some capacity is extremely haunting. But let's move on to gameplay. Unfortunately, Devil May Cry 2's gameplay is a huge step down from DMC 1. In 2, you can't buy moves for your weapons, rather you can upgrade weapons to deal more damage. Even though DMC 1 doesn't have as refined gameplay like 3, you can still perform some cool moves to really get those style ranks up and have some fun. Since you can only level up the damage of your weapons in 2, combat becomes really boring, since you're literally just doing the same moves over and over again. Another nail to this wound is the guns in the game. They're way too powerful. Guns in DMC are meant to do chip damage and help you extend your combos. But in 2, you just sit in one spot and end a mid-boss or regular boss right then and there. Capcom listened to people who complained about the difficulty of DMC 1, but they decided to fix it in the worst way. Hence, the infested chopper. Yeah, this breaks the game and removes any need to use your melee weapons. Because hey, you can fight from a distance and avoid damage. What fun. Oh yeah, about the bosses. Throughout the video, I didn't really mention a lot about the bosses in both games because they're pretty forgettable. But DMC 2 has no memorable bosses besides Nephasterus and Argosax. Once again with the name butchering. Anything else it has are just rehashes from the first game, like Phantom, or just something uninteresting. Sure, Succubus and Bob Barbas weren't that great of bosses, but at least they left some kind of impact. And with DMC Devil May Cry, you do fight Vergil in the end, so you know, it's something. Although, Argosax is the only boss that gives you a challenge in the game, at least in its despair embodied form. But he's the final boss, so it just comes way too late. So to not fully trash the game, it does one interesting thing, the amulet mechanic. The amulet modifies your double trigger depending on what stone you put into it. The aerial heart allows you to fly, the flame heart gives you fire elementals, the chrono heart allows you to stop fucking time, and so on. But because the game wants to be easier, double trigger can be a bit broken. When you're below 10% health and you activate double trigger, you go into your Majin form, which gives you faster movement, super enhanced strength, and among other things, invincibility. Nothing can do damage to you or interrupt your attacks. It's pretty insane. And the mode lasts once your DT runs out as well. Yeah, they really succeeded in making the game easier. This mode was originally a secret too, you had to discover it. Let's just move to level design. The first thing you'll notice with DMC 2 is that the environments are big and wide. With this, they made things like platforming a little easier as well, but the whole game ends up feeling empty and devoid of life. And since stages take place in cities and in a lot of modern day looking areas, it makes this feeling a bit worse. And what doesn't help is the ugly visual design as well. At some points it looks fine, but others just look nasty, especially with the weird pattern stages like this one. It's a shame because the whole game in terms of visuals could have looked much cooler. Like the Nefastus boss did look cool, and that was a demon that was a building. It's just really unfortunate. So, what's the verdict? Which one is better, DMC 2 or DMC Devil May Cry? Yeah, if you haven't guessed it, it's DMC Devil May Cry that takes the cake here. Although my anger for both of these games have greatly lessened over the years, DMC 2 still rubs me the wrong way as I come back to it. While DMC Devil May Cry doesn't get DMC right in the slightest, at least it tries to do something different. And as an action game, it is fun. The biggest DMC 2 had was that it's just boring gameplay and story. It really felt like a step backwards for the series, which was thankfully corrected with 3. But what do I know? Devil May Cry 5 is here, and let's just kick back and enjoy that classic series once again.